Hi everyone and welcome to Introduction to Dashboard Reporting in Modern Excel. We have many people joining us from all around the world, so please say hello in the chat and share with us where you are joining us from. My name is Susan Wilkin and I am the Training Coordinator for Plum Solutions. Normally we have a guest presenter, but today our guest is Danielle Stein-Fairhurst, Principal at Plum Solutions. And today we have a slightly different format, and as a guest you will be able to contribute. We would love it if you would show your video, but please be aware that we are recording this main session today. We're jumping over to the breakout groups shortly, and whatever you say in the breakout groups will stay in the breakout groups, as we will not be recording that section. We have a massively popular session today, and thank you to Danielle for presenting this for us.
Thanks, Susan. Wow. We do have a really big session planned for you today. We might go a little bit over an hour, so I hope that's okay. We'll see how we go. As Susan mentioned, we are going to be putting you into your breakout groups. So I can see quite a few people have got their cameras and microphones on, which is great. And certainly when we get into your breakout groups, so make sure that that you have that, because you'll need to be discussing with each other. So the breakout groups are going to happen towards the end of the session. So do feel free to jump in the chat, say hi, say where you're from. Please add any questions as you go. I'll try to answer those as we go through the session today, or I'll address those at the end. So this is me, Danielle Stein-Fairhurst. So financial modelling was kind of what my first, my main thing that I do is build financial models, mostly using Excel. But what I find is that actually the output of our financial models can be quite difficult to interpret. And so quite early on in my career, I got very interested in the idea of presentation of data. I found that, having grid lines and black and white does not exactly inspire people. And so I think it's really important to have that sort of visualization, and that's why I'm so interested in dashboards and visualization. So that's a little bit of my background of what I do using Excel specifically for financial modeling. Is pretty much what I do, and I've written a couple of books about the subject. So our session today is really just a preview. In fact, this session is going to become the prerequisite for the dashboard reporting in Modern Excel course that's coming up in next month. So I think it's around the 9th of June 2021. And it's going to be run over 3 days, and it's three-hour sessions. So what we'll be covering today is a really quick snapshot overview of all, or quite a few of the techniques and the things that we'll be covering. So I really enjoy running these sessions live. I used to be able to do them face to face, not at the moment, but it is quite nice to do these live over Zoom, so that we can really interact, and it's become a method of training that I've actually learned to enjoy. It was quite tricky to get the hang of it at first, but the other thing I like about running these sessions live is that dashboards and Modern Excel specifically, Modern Excel is changing all the time. Every time I look, they are adding something new to Excel. They're constantly, particularly with Excel 365, they are constantly making it better all the time. So I find it very hard to write a book or to create a pre-recorded course about this. And so that's why I tend to run these live sessions more often. So I'll tell you a little bit more about this course later on at the end, and we'll certainly send an invitation. If you've registered for the session, we'll send an invitation if you'd like to attend. So on to today. As I mentioned, as a financial modeler, I love numbers. I'm used to looking at numbers all day, every day, but not everybody loves numbers. And when you create the output of our financial model often looks something like this, which is not very sexy. And yeah, I found that when I would present the output of my analysis, nobody would pay attention. And even if I were to put color into it, if I use conditional formatting, jazz it up a little bit, yeah, it's still numbers. So using what I'd really like to take you through today is some tools and techniques for using modern Excel for visualization, for ways to bring meaning to your numbers. And this is a skill that I think is going to be really, really important in the future because yeah, robots are coming for your jobs. If you didn't realize it, robots are already here. And specifically, if you are working in finance or in data analytics, robots are already doing your job. So artificial intelligence is no longer the stuff of sci-fi movies. Machines are taking over. If your job involves number crunching or analysis or any kind of repetitive task, your roles are changing immeasurably. So I'd like to know how that makes you feel. If you are worried about your role being automated, I'd like to know. You should see, if you're joining us live on Zoom, you should see a little poll pop up on your screen. I'd like to know if you're terrified. Maybe you're feeling just a little bit threatened. You think a robot could never do my job, or bring it on, I can adapt. So yeah, I can see the results coming in now. And yeah, okay, some people are feeling a little bit threatened. A robot can never do my job. But most people are saying, bring it on, I can adapt. Glad to see, because yeah, we are living in this world where automation has become just a really big part of our lives, and we need to learn how to use that. We can't ignore it. We need to be able to use the tools of modern Excel so that we do not spend our time, crunching numbers and manually entering data or analyzing data. You want to set it up so that the reports and the AI and that Excel will do the hard work for you. And that's really what I want to take you through today. So what we'll talk about first of all is why dashboards are so popular. Then we'll jump into some comparison and evaluation of different tools. So we'll take a look at some of the different tools that you can use for putting together your dashboards. We'll also look at some dashboard design, and I'm going to get you guys to, that's when you're going to jump into your breakout groups, and I'll get you to have a look at I'll give you a little bit of data. Now, if you've got the file, you were sent an Excel file in advance. Susan's going to pop that in the chat shortly. Just make sure you've downloaded that. So when we go into your breakout groups, you will, at least one person should have a copy of the file so that you can share your screen and you can chat about how you are going to best do this data visualization, and then I'm going to pick on a lucky person to come back and share with the group. And then lastly, we'll talk about the correct methods of visual displays. So we've got quite a lot to get through. So yeah, all right. So let's talk firstly about why dashboards are so popular. So we're living in the age of big data. So this image is made up of thousands and thousands and thousands of data points, but it is arranged in a way that takes meaning. It gives meaning to us. So our job is to take all of this information and actually turn it into something that means something to us and to other people. So taking your data and actually turning it into wisdom or decision. I mean, making decisions is what we really want to be able to do here. Now, social media, I think, has got a lot to answer for in the way that we consume information. I think that in the old days, you would send somebody a report and you would expect that they were giving it full attention. That is not the case. We are just being bombarded by information all the time, and that's the situation that we have. We have the data is being consumed via. It could be via email. You could be sending somebody a report via email, or it could be online, or it could be pinging up on their phone, or it could be from a number of different ways. So as a person who puts together a report, you need to consider that you can't assume that the person looking at your report is paying their full attention. You need to make sure that the visual or the report that you put together is going to grab their attention, that it's going to tell them quickly and succinctly what they need to know. They haven't got time to be trawling through pages and pages of reports to glean out the pieces of information that are important to them. You need to decide what it is that they need to know, because we just receive so much information. In fact, we receive 5 times as much information as we did back in 1986. And not only are we receiving more information, we're getting it from different sources. In the palm of our hands, we have just the most amazing amount of information. So just consider that. Consider that people are much more sophisticated about the way that they consume data, or the way that they want to be able to see it, because apparently this increase of visual information is dumbing us down, or so they say. There was a study that came out a few years ago about the fact that the human attention span has fallen from the year 2000, was around about when the smartphones came out, and in 2016 it dropped to 8 seconds. And apparently a goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. So there you go. Apparently our attention span is less than a goldfish. And in fact, I probably, in the few seconds that I've been talking about that, I've probably lost your attention already. So the way that I actually described that was probably not very helpful, because it's written and you had to read it. You're using the reading part of your brain, and I'm verbally explaining it. If I were putting this information, for example, on a dashboard, it would you'd get the message much more quickly if I were to do something like this. Say, in the year 2000, your attention span was 12 seconds. 2016, it was 8 seconds, and the attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. And I would show that visually, and then you show that horizontal line so that you can compare each of those, and that just makes it so your brain is going to process that information much more quickly. Or even you could do it like that, might even be a better way, even better. That is this. So this one here is probably more what you would show on a dashboard. This is probably more an infographic. So it's more sort of artistic, something that you perhaps publish on social media. And while I'm on the subject of goldfish, there we go. This is one of the reports. This is actually a chart, believe it or not. It is a chart that came out when Power BI first became available. This is one of the fancy new charts that came out, and I'd like to know what you guys think of it. So what is this chart telling us? You should see a poll just popping up on your screen if you're joining us live on Zoom. I'd like to know what you think. What is it telling us? Which are our biggest customers? Yeah, okay, so a few people are saying that. What direction is our organization heading in? Don't know. Yeah, some people are a bit more honest and say, I have no idea, because I don't know about you, I have no idea what this chart's trying to say. Or perhaps number 4, that you should never use a chart like this. Yeah, this is, it's cute. It's kind of, it's interesting. It certainly grabs our attention, but it doesn't really tell us very much. So yeah, there's attention grabbing, and there's, perhaps meaningless. So yeah, interesting. Okay. I'll just stop and see if there are any questions. I think we are good to go. If you have anything you want me to go over, or something you want to ask when we get into the technical demo, feel free to pop any messages in the chat that you have for me, and I can go over anything. All right, so let's jump into now the definition of a dashboard. So the analogy of a dashboard is, it's really that idea of, it comes from the idea of a dashboard of a car. So you are tearing along the highway at 100 kilometers an hour, and you want to be able to see at a glance how things are going. You don't want to be fiddling about with Excel formulas or wondering, is that data really accurate? You want to be able to see straight away. So something like speed, fuel, temperature, a couple of different key metrics on the dashboard straight away. Your focus on when you're driving is forward. Sometimes you look in the rear mirror, but generally your focus is going forward. And people often, because of this whole dashboard car analogy, they'll show a speedo. A speedo is quite a good way of showing speed, but from a business perspective, it gives us one single number. So it takes up a lot of space and doesn't tell us very much. So the definition of a dashboard is that it should be easy to read. It should be real time generally. It should have it should be on a single page. It should be a snapshot of current status and maybe some historical trends. So it really should just be at a point in time snapshot. And most importantly, it should enable instantaneous and informed decisions at a glance. So you should be able to see, so the meaning should just jump straight out at you when you're looking at a dashboard. So you should be able to look at a dashboard and say, hey, this is what the dashboard is trying to tell me. Now, a lot of the time when we are presenting data in our dashboard, a lot of the time it is financial information. A lot of us have a financial background. A lot of the examples that I'll show you are finance related. But yeah, it's financial information is tricky. Some people do not, a lot of managers don't understand the reports they receive. Financial concepts are not intuitive. People do tend to zone out a little bit when they see finance, especially if they don't have a finance background. So presenting financial information can be difficult because you don't want to dumb it down, but you also need to make it really, really clear. So don't assume. So there's a lot of things that you should do when you're presenting financial information. Don't use acronyms. Don't assume knowledge, but also don't dumb it down too much. So again, it's coming back to your audience of knowing what they know and what you should explain. So when you're presenting financial information, don't do it in Excel. So Excel is not a presentation tool. So presenting something like this, people's eyes glaze over when they see Excel, when they see the grid lines. It's pretty horrible. It's not great. So I would recommend perhaps bringing it to life, making it a little more interesting. Maybe something like this. So you might say this is the gross revenue, and this is the inventory. You can kind of see this is just a standard waterfall chart in Excel. And I've actually just animated it using PowerPoint, so there's no sort of special tricks in here. So you can see, and that's our gross income, and then from our gross income we need to pay staff costs, marketing, facilities, and G&A, and that leaves our operating income. Our taxes is this much, and therefore we have a net income of $25,000. So not exactly riveting stuff, but it is a slightly more interesting if I were to reveal and to show parts of the chart as you go through. I'm talking about a live presentation here, whether you're either presenting in a meeting, whether it's online or whether it's in person, actually giving a presentation like that rather than just showing dump, here's some grid lines. So I'm going to show you now an example of the kind of thing that we do in the live course, the longer version of the course. We don't have time to go into something like this today, but this is the sort of thing that we do. So we'll grab a pile of data that looks like this, which is really, really quite difficult to make sense of. And then we jump into breakout groups, and we'll look at a couple of different things. You can try F11, which is your instant chart. Maybe you can choose some add some spark lines or some formatting, that sort of thing. And you'll sort of work together to make it easier to read. And, you might do, if you did a very simple chart, it might look something like that. So what's really important though is give them insights, not spreadsheets. I know that we all love Excel. But just because we love Excel doesn't mean that they do. So make sure that you don't overwhelm them with numbers, because overwhelmed or confused decision makers simply will not make decisions. So what I'd like to do now is get a bit of feedback from you. So I'd like to find out what you like about Excel, and perhaps what you hate about Excel. So I want to try something here. I've actually got put together a Slido, and I'd like to know what you guys like or love about Excel. So if you could go to, if you're on your PC, just open up a tab and go to slido.com and add in the number 825562, and it will. These are some of the things that we ran the session this morning. These are some of the answers that people said, things that they liked about Excel. If you've got your phone handy, you could do it on your phone as well. So that's a QR code. You can just put your camera up to the screen, and it should show you, you should be able to access that and put in, okay, so I can see people like the VLOOKUP, flexibility. So the bigger 825562, yep, good. Being able to share Power Query. Yes, we are going to have a look at Power Query. Ease, yes, that's what we love about Excel. Most of all, we love the flexibility by the look of it. It's versatile, quick analysis. Everybody knows how to use Excel. What else? It sits in every PC. Power Query again. What else have we got here? The speed. Yes, hopefully the speed. Okay, they're coming in thick and fast now. It's wonderful. Wow, that's nice. We can make money. Yes, we can make money with Excel. What else? Index match. We love index match with Excel. It's universal. Okay. Brilliant. Okay, it's a beast. By the way, Susan, you'll be glad to know. Susan was a bit nervous when I said I was going to do this, because I haven't used Slido before. You'll be glad to know there is a profanity filter on this, so you can't just say anything. So I thought there might be some funny answers on here. So Flex, it's practical, it's universal. Okay, all right, that's cool. All right, we might go on to the next one now, which is what frustrates you about Excel. So you should see if you're on the same page, you should see a new page coming up. And I'd like to know what frustrates you about using Excel. Like we all love Excel, but from time to time, it does get frustrating. Remembering the formulas, the errors, the limitations, what else? Frequent crashes. I don't know the formulas. I found out today there's now more than 500 functions in Excel. So I'm not surprised if you don't know all of the formulas. Crashes with large data. Yes, remembering nested formulas. Yeah, putting formulas within the formulas. Lots to do with the formulas. The formatting can be quite frustrating. Having long formulas, the auto save. Okay, all right. Backwards compatibility. Yep, that's a big one. All right.
How did I ever doubt you, Danielle? Like, that was a success by the looks. Pop in the chat what you thought of Slido, everybody. I'm keen to know.
It was a bit of a new thing for me. I thought I'd give it a go. So normally we put things in the chat and I type them on the screen, but I thought, why not? We'll give it a go. So yeah, it's just interesting to see what everyone.
Great tool. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Okay, let's jump in now to some comparison and evaluation of dashboard tools. So yeah, if you are going to put together a dashboard, you can use some static tools. So if it was just a once-off dashboard, you might use something like Adobe or a web-based. So there's tons and tons of systems that you can use. But a dynamic or data-driven tools, Tableau is very popular. ClickView, there's tons more that you can use. We are going to focus today on Microsoft products, which is, I'm a Microsoft MVP now, but I always talk about Microsoft products because, it's standard, it's what everyone has. If you have the 365 license, it's generally sort of part of that. So there's lots of reasons why we would stick with Microsoft products. I'm not saying it's the only tool that you can use, but that's really what we're going to be talking about today. So when you are deciding when you go to start building your dashboard, your choices are Excel, or Excel. So you really need to think about, whether you're going to be using Excel pivot tables or Excel formulas, or whether you're going to jump into Power Excel. So those at Power Excel are the tools of modern Excel, so Power BI or Power Query. And so those tools are either Power Pivot, which is Power Pivot is the sort of data warehouse, where it stores all of the data. Power Query, which I'll demonstrate for you in a minute. And we'll also take a look at Power BI, which sits outside Excel. So just visually to give you a bit of an idea of the way each of these different tools hangs together in modern Excel. So we've got Excel, so standalone Excel, whether it's whatever version you're using. And you can be sitting in Excel and you can access the power of Power Pivot from just sitting in standard Excel. Similarly, you can also access the power of Power Query, but then you could go out of Excel and jump into Power BI, and then from within Power BI, you can also access Power Pivot and Power Query. So I'll try to demonstrate shortly what I mean by that, but it's a kind of ecosystem of all of these different tools and how they kind of hang together. So what I'd like to do with you now is just a quick demo. So I haven't given you a copy of these files, but these are just a bit of a preview of the kind of things that we work on in the course. So firstly, I'll show you how to use standard tables, pivot tables and pivot charts to build a dashboard. Then we'll have a look at using Power Query in Excel, and then you can use those to build a dashboard. And then lastly, we'll use Power Query within Power BI. So let's jump over into Excel and have a look, first of all, at using the first option, which is using standard tables. So firstly, so here we've got a list of data. It's arranged in a table. You can tell it's a table because firstly the hint is the formatting, and when I click on it you can see the tables pop up. So on that table I have actually built a dashboard over the top of it. So it's really simple. It is just a pivot table, and you can see here the grouping here. I've just added in some filters, and then I've used those filters to link together some dynamic titles. So when I change the slicer, that will change the pivot table and it will change the output. I've got a nice little donut there, only two slices of the donut. It's perhaps a good use of a donut chart. There you go. So that's just a really simple example of how you could use standard tables, pivot tables and pivot charts to build a dashboard. So there's nothing fancy about that. It's actually not even using any of the new features of modern Excel. So I won't. The other reason I didn't go into that in a lot of detail is that Minda Tracy's got a fantastic video that's just out. I will add I'll send you an email, or I'll add a link below to that tutorial. So it shows some really, it's a 15 minutes of your life. That is a really good idea. So it just shows you how to use some simple pivot tables and pivot charts to build a dashboard. Okay, so let's have a look now at using Power Query in standard Excel, and then how we can build pivot tables and pivot charts over the top of it to create a dashboard. So I'll jump back into Excel now, and here we've got some data, and this is often how people give the data to us. It's got expenditure, location, and then it's got the dates across the top, which is fine. That's how we often like to consume data, but to analyze it, it's not very helpful. So if I Control A to highlight everything and then go in and create a pivot table, going to be quite hard to work with. So if I jump in and, put some filters in there, and then I need to go in and select every single one individually. So firstly, it's going to take me a while to build, and most importantly though, it's not going to automatically update every time we get more data. So a much better way of working with this data would be to flick it around, and it's a really common problem, and Power Query handles it quite well. So let's go into the data tab, and I'm going to hit from table range. It's not a table, you can tell by the way it's formatted, but if I hit from table, it's going to automatically convert it to a table. There we go. And then it's going to bring up Power Query. So if you haven't seen Power Query before, this is what it looks like. So it's just a little sort of screen that comes over the top of Excel. So it looks almost like Excel, except that all of the steps down the right hand side, everything that I do now is going to be recorded, and you can redo it. So having a look at it, it's probably okay. But what I really need to do is to just highlight the first two columns, and then I'm just going to unpivot the other column. So what that's done is it's going to flick it around so that it doesn't know what to call that. That is we'll call that the date. You can see that it is text, so you could change it to a date, and you can see it's properly accepted it there, and we could call that one spend, for example. So then I can just say close and load, and that's going to push me back into Excel, and that's going to be a lot easier to work with now. So I can now create a pivot table directly over the top of it. If you have just a bit of a tip though, if you have a huge quantity of data, so when I went in to my query and I said close and load, if I'd have chosen the option close and load to, that's going to push it into the data model. It means that it will be sitting in the background. It won't actually create a sheet the way I've done it there. So that's an option if you do find that you have too much data to deal with. So now I can much more easily create expenditure there, and Excel's tries to be helpful there. So the way that it groups the dates, I'm just going to ungroup the dates and say I just want to look at the months. There we go. So that's a little bit a better way of dealing with that. Okay, so that was using Power Query in Excel, and then the next thing I'd like to show you is to jump into Power BI, and then I'd like to use Power Query within Power BI, and then use Power BI to actually build a dashboard. So let's jump over into Power BI. So Power BI looks like this. Completely doesn't look like Excel at all. It's a completely different tool. If you have a Microsoft license, you can download it for free. It's part of the Microsoft suite. So this is the output. This is where your report is going, or your dashboard is going to go. Your data is going to go in here, and your relationships or your different tables will go there. So the first thing I'm going to do is get data from Excel. Before I do that, I might just show you what it looks like though. This is the data that I'm going to use. So similar to what we've done before, except it's just a bit messier. So I'm just going to take it a little bit further. So you've got untitled headings here. You've got all sorts of colors, and you've got text, and all sorts of things. You've got totals in there. So it's a bit of a mess. So what I'm going to do here is just go Excel, go in and grab the data there. I've got a couple of different sheets on there, so it's going to ask me which sheet I want to pick up. So it was called sales. Let's see, it might just take a little while to show up. Okay, if it takes too long, I might just push it forward. All right, okay, so I'll just hit transform data. That's going to take me directly into Power Query. I know it looks really, really similar to the Power Query in Excel, but we are now in Power BI. And again, we are in Power BI within Power Query within Power BI. So you can see the steps down the right-hand side again. So this data is a little bit messier than the last lot. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get rid of these extra columns here. I'm going to leave that one there because that's the comment. So I'm going to remove these columns, okay? I'm going to change the name of that and I'll call that comments. I might just, actually, no, I won't do that. I should have used first, I'll do first row with headers first of all, and then I'll have to just redo that one. So call that comments, and we'll move that over just so that I've got all of it together. There we go. And all right, so let's have a look at it now. Okay, yeah, this is going to be a lot easier to deal with if I can get it all into one column. So let's do exactly like we did before, where I highlight the first column and then just go unpivot other columns like that. And you can see here, this, I'll rename this and I'll call that sales. And again, we'll call that years. All right, let's have a look. So comments, there's lots of null in there, but yeah, I can see that's repeated. That's fine. That is totally fine. Okay. I can see here I've got a few bits of text, so that's going to cause me some problems. So what I want to do is actually go in and remove it. So you can filter in Power Query. Now in Excel, if you filter, it's going to, the data still stays there, but with Power Query, when you filter something out, it's completely removed. So it's going to be kind of tricky. Yeah, I have to select all of these. A more sort of robust way of doing this would be, there's a few ways of doing it. You could add a column, you could do an if, you could just filter it straight out. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to convert it to, because it's text and numbers, you can see the 1, 2, 3 there, and this is, the data is stored as text. So I'm going to change that to a whole number. So that's going to convert anything that is not a number is going to be an error, basically. So what I'll then do is go in and remove all of the errors. So that's a quick way of getting rid of that. And it means if there were, in the future, if there were other bits of text in there, it will remove those, or anything that's not a number will be removed. Let's have a look what else. Okay, so we've got these totals here, so I can get rid of, again, just untick the total. Okay, let's have a look. All right. Okay, let's see how we go with that. So we can always come back and change it later. So I'll hit close and apply. And that is going to push me now. It's doing all of the, applying all of the steps that I've done, and it's pushing it into Power BI. So you can see my data is here eventually. There we go. So that's what my data looks like. This is where my dashboard is going to be. So I can just go straight in, and it's pretty clever. If I just tick that there, it's going to come up with, okay, yep, that's kind of what I wanted. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a chart that looks like that. Although I think I would like to see perhaps some locations or maybe some years across the x-axis. We can add okay, there's a problem here with the years. So you can see that the years are out of order. That often happens. I can go in and sort them. I can go in and sort by years. Okay, yeah, okay, that's looking good. All right, that's fine. Going back into my data, yeah, so you can see the years are actually text, not numbers, but it seems to be working okay. So it seems to be handling my years all right. Okay, that's fine. And the next thing I'll do is grab a slicer. So it might be nice to slice by location, say. Okay, there we go. And you know, you can put in, perhaps you could put in a little table, and that will show the salesperson. Perhaps that'll give you a list of salesperson, something like that. The other thing that's quite nice is the this tooltip. So if you've got any kind of text in there, for example, the comments that we had, so you can grab those, and when you hover over it, you can see there it's going to come up with the comments that are within the data. The other thing that's quite nice is this Q&A, so you can grab the Q&A, and yeah, so this is that data intelligence I was talking about. So it's kind of clever. It's so we don't have a job anymore. We don't have to go in and create it. It's going to just we want to know average sale. There we go. So it's going to give us that. So yeah, you can go in and ask it to look at all sorts of different things, which is great. Okay. Yeah, I can see there's a question about removing the total. So just going back to, I can go into the transform data here, and just a question about when I removed that. Yes, that is completely removed. So when you filter something, it's totally gone. And then when you go back, close and apply, or go back into it, it's disappeared. So you won't see that again. So are there any other questions before we move on? Okay. So I haven't spent a huge amount of time on the layout of this one. It's not particularly exciting, but one of the fantastic things about using Power BI is being able to share. So if I go to the mobile layout, I can sort of show, I can, design how it's going to look when you're in a mobile screen, which is pretty cool. So I can see there. So when someone is making changes, they'll be able to see that there, and they'll be able to see it like that. So you can design it so that they'll be able to view it in mobile. Just so many fantastic things that you can do with Power BI for sure. So all right. Let's jump back now. So those are just a quick overview of some of the different things that you can also, or different tools that you can use to build your dashboards using Excel, Power Query, or Power BI. All right. So let's jump in now to take a look at some principles of dashboard design. So what I'd like to do here, we've got a bit of data. So let's say this is the output that you want to present. So I'd like to talk now about different ways of presenting. So rather than telling you all the rules and the do's and the don'ts, I thought it might be better if I just show this to you. So let's say I wanted to compare the sales of 4 different departments. So I'd like to know what you think. So I'm going to pop a poll up on your screen in a minute. I'd like to know which of these displays our message best. You think it would be good to show it as a line? Would it be good to show it as a radar? Maybe something like that. And it is quite nice to put some numbers at the top, a few labels, some maybe you like it the other way. Oh, okay, something like that. Or the old pie chart. So thinking about which is going to display our message best. Generally, I'll give you a hint, it is not a pie chart. And it's not even better if you put a hole in the middle of it. So if you're trying to compare 4 different numbers, showing them in a circular way like that does not make it easy. It's even worse if we make it put it in 3D, or even if we explode it like that. So I'm just going to pop you should see a poll pop up on your screen, and I'd like to know which one you liked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Okay, glad to see that nobody selected the pie chart. Okay, yeah, all right, one person did. Most people liked the chart 3 or chart 4. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to pop you into your breakout groups, and we're going to do a really similar thing. So you were given a file. So Susan has popped, I can see Susan's just popped the link in the chat again. So I'd like you to download the file, and I've given you the data that looks like that. So I'd like you to work in Excel. So you're going to be, Susan's going to pop you into the groups in a minute, and I'd like at least one person to share your screen and work together. And then I'm going to ask one person at least from the group to come back and share what you thought. So try it out, use recommended chart, and yeah, good luck. Hey, how did you go? So, wow. Yeah, we had some interesting ones there. I think Tom agreed to share. Tom, are you able to share your screen and unmute?
Yeah, sure. Just a second. And here, share. All right. We had a very, very brief discussion. So basically, we selected the chart, hit recommended charts, and you get a bunch of options. My argument was the stacked bar chart is probably the most representative because you have the departments, down the side. You show the total expense or total cost, and then each one of the cost categories, you can see their ratio compared to everybody else in that. Some of the other ones just don't make sense, like a 100% bar chart that doesn't make sense here, and reversing it to the categorization by total spend. That was another really odd one as well. So, something else you could get away with too is, the clustered column, because that again kind of gives you an idea of the various expenses by the department in that particular. So you can see here, staff cost is the highest overall, and the admin is the next. Well, actually, IT is a little higher than the admin costs. So, just kind of a couple of quick options.
That's great. That's great. So I think it really depends what you're trying to get out of it, like what you're trying to show. And you chose the one that you've got on the screen there. Yeah, that was the one you decided to test.
Yeah, and it goes exactly back to what you said. It depends on what you're trying to highlight or trying to show.
And yeah, it does look quite different when it's horizontal like that than when it's vertical.
What I would probably do is actually sort this by most the department with the most spend, so that it would be stacked down that way, so you could kind of see who's spending the most.
Excel doesn't do that very easily, and neither does Power BI by the look of it. But yeah, generally Power BI does a much better job of that. Yeah.
Right.
Great. Thank you so much, Tom. Okay, so let's I'll just share again and have a look what I came up with. So we had a comment from Shanila. Better choose just clustered columns with stacked bars. You cannot really clearly see each expense. That's a really good comment. Thank you. So this is what you mean, I think, by clustered columns, where you're looking at them side by side, and Tom had a look at that one. And yeah, so that's an option, or like that. That's okay too. So yeah, what Shanila is saying is that when you stack them on top of each other, it makes it quite difficult to compare. And 100%, I mean, in some situations, 100% stack will work. But yeah, it doesn't really make sense. The line is, yeah, not great either. It doesn't, it's completely, yeah, and that really doesn't make sense either. Okay, you ready for another one? Remember that the job of a visual is that the meaning should just leap off the page at you. Now, even for Australians, this one might be a little bit difficult to interpret. So these are the different states in Australia. Around the outside is a population, inside is land areas. It's quite interesting. So you can see if you trace across, and you can see here we've got Victoria, which is a really small land area, but a pretty big population. It's actually quite interesting data, but it takes a little while to understand. So the way that we have presented the information here is really not the best way of conveying our message. So I'd like you guys to have a go at this. I'm going to put you into your breakout groups again, and I'd like to see what you guys think, if you can come up with something better. Now, if you're using Excel 365, your options might look a little different. So try out a couple of different things, and then we'll go back and we'll come back together and discuss. Do you want to show us what you came up with, or
it was not my idea. It was Alan, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, it was Alan. Yeah, not Adam. Alan.
Adam. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Looking good.
Adam. Oh, Alan, I don't know who it was. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Let me pose a question. Because we're looking at relationships, would this scatter plot do the job? That the territory one is, or a bubble chart
Maybe.
of this, or in the left-hand side and the top left-hand side or the bottom right-hand side shows population per land area per square kilometer, something like this.
Possibly, yeah. The size of the bubble could be the size. There would be a few issues with that. The bubble chart can be a little bit tricky. It doesn't like it when you have x-axis labels that are not numerical. Some weird thing. But I liked what you had there. I like I don't think you can. I really don't think you can go past that that visual of the map. But the map is actually only available. Can you see my? You should be able to see my Excel now. I think, yeah. I don't think you can go past the visual of the chart. I think the chart looks really nice, but it's only available with 365. So yeah, there's a few options there. The scatters, yeah, could give you something meaningful. Yeah, I do like the map. The problem with it though is that just have a look at the density or the darkness of the color is based on the land area, which is kind of duplicating the information because you can see the land area. So you need to really take that and just move it across to population. So you don't want to show land area at all because that's already shown on the chart. So you really want to show population, and that's saying the darker the color, the higher the population. And I'd probably be inclined to get rid of that and perhaps show some data labels on there. We always got this problem with some of the smaller states have problems there. So you might need to do another label perhaps. And of course you'd want to change your colors. You know, it's pretty boring to have the same color there. So I think that's probably a good solution. If you have a look, if you go to unhide and unhide there, you'll see there's a couple of different options there. That's your original one. That's another option there that you might want to have a look at. I've also done some labels there, so put some truncated labels also. If you are joining us from the US or somewhere else, some places you may have, did anyone have trouble with the territories? So it doesn't show because I've actually converted this to data types. So if you go to data and hit geography, that's actually, I've already done that and I'd converted it to geography. So because the population I've got there is kind of old, so you can actually jump in and grab the population there. So that will actually update the population for you using the data type. So you can get all sorts of information there. That is only available though on 365. So if you don't have access to the map or you don't have access to the data types, then that will be the reason why. So remember that the meaning should just jump off the page at you. Your dashboard, you should be using the data or the analysis that you're doing in your data to find the story. You want to use that analysis in Excel to find the story and then to tell the story. So that is really what you're wanting to do here with the Excel tools that you have available to you. You want to find the story and then to tell the story. So the last thing I'd like to cover with you today is choosing the correct method of visual display. So yeah, as we've seen, you can show different chart types. Different charts or different ways that you display the information can make your message, can actually provide quite a different message because of visual perception, the way that our brains work, what we see is not necessarily what's there, and you have a huge amount of power. So when you go to present the data in your dashboard, think about how you're going to present that. For example, I like this example here. So the first one is it's telling a story, it's telling a good story. So this is the percentage of female CEOs in Fortune 500 companies. So we've gone from virtually zero, and it's a really great, inspiring message. up to 3.5%. Whereas if we look at the full story, so we say 50% as a target, and you can see there the story isn't quite as compelling or as exciting as we thought it would be. So you can see two very, very different messages based on exactly the same data. So you have the power to show what you would like it to show. So, for example, if I were to say my message here is how many fives, quick, you should be able to quickly pick out how many fives are in there. Yeah, it's much easier if I do that, if I highlight, if I use color or some kind of visual aid to help you to interpret what you're seeing, because the human visual system is a pattern seeker. And it has its own perception-based rules. So, yeah, by following the rules, so you want to learn the way that the human brain works, and apply those rules so that you make it easy for the brain to interpret what it's seeing. So you want to make it easy. So don't have clutter, don't have things that make it difficult, make it clear and crisp and easy to follow. So the last exercise I'd like to do with you is to take a look at a couple of dashboards. One of these dashboards is good, and one of these dashboards is perhaps not so good. So a couple of examples here. Neither of them are perfect, but you should see a poll that's just popped up on your screen. And yeah, I can see most people are liking the one on the left. Yes, I can see. Yes, thank you. Yes, you're liking the filters. Yeah, so the tick boxes is helpful. The one on the left, and yeah, it's not perfect, but it is kind of clear. It shows a lot of information. The one on the left, the one on the right is quite cluttered. It's got this visual distraction of having the bricks behind it. It's got the pie chart. You know how I feel about pie charts, and it's sort of got this kind of luscious looking thing which is rather distracting. So yes, I definitely agree that the left one is the better dashboard. Okay, should we try it again? Left or right? This one's a bit easier. Yes. So the speedometer on the left hand side, as I said, showing a speedo will give you one single number, which takes up a lot of space and doesn't give us a lot of information. The only thing worse than a pie chart is a 3D pie chart. So those 3D pie charts are horrible and almost illegible. Certainly the labels, it's quite difficult to see. Now the one on the right is, you guys know I'm a big fan of Chandu, so the way that one's put together is quite clear and easier to read. So the one on the right is certainly the one that is much better. So that is pretty much what I have for you today. So that was a very, very quick summary of what we'll be covering in the live dashboard course. So it goes over 3 days, so it's 3 hours a day. It's quite intense, just like what we've done there. Very much a lot of interaction, breakout rooms, polls. You'll be expected to have your cameras and microphones on. It's very, very interactive course. We'll be doing a lot of the things that we talked about. So we'll be going through using Power Query, using Power BI, using a lot of these tools from modern Excel, and how you can include those in your dashboards and just become a lot better at your job. So it is 9th to 11th of June. So it's in the afternoon Sydney time, which we find is the best time. So hopefully there won't be too many people having to get up in the middle of the night, although we did do that last time. We had people joining us from all over who were joining us live in the middle of the night. We will be recording the sessions. You will get access to those recordings, so you can watch them at your leisure, or you can re-watch them as many times as you like. You also get access to the support center, so you'll get an invitation to book a one-on-one session with me once a month. So that's also included. So we are going to jump forward now and see what other questions that you have for me.
Okay, there was a question a little bit earlier from Neelam. How did you create the two donuts in one chart?
Oh, that was just a stat donut. I'll show you how to do that if you'd like. So you just highlight it like that, and it's just a pie and a donut, something like that. That looks quite different to the way I had it though. You just need to go in and format plot area, and I think if you just go in there, and you can make the donut whole size a bit smaller. So there, that was an easy question. Any others? Was there anything else, Susan?
No, that was it, I think. I think we've covered
Okay.
everything unless anything comes through. Why do you resent
Resent.
prize cards? Yes.
Because they're awful. They're probably one of the worst ways of displaying information. They take up, so with a dashboard, you're really trying to convey as much meaning with the space you have, and space is always limited on a dashboard. So pie charts are a great way of taking up a lot of space and not telling you very much. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of pie charts. Okay, any other questions? Gunjan says, how can we register for June? I'll send out an email after this, or I'll pop if you're watching the recording, I'll pop a link down the bottom.
And I'll put the link here too.
Oh, there we go. Susan's pop the link there in the chat. So, all right. Now, how do you know how to rank the bar chart if there are two sets of data by any chance? Well, I guess you have to make a decision as to how you want to rank it. So you remember when we were doing the thing in Power BI, and we had to, it gave us a choice of how you wanted to rank it. So you basically just needed to make a decision how to rank the data. That answers your question. All right. We are running lots and lots of these live virtual meetups, so do check them out. I'd love to see you at those sessions. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope to see you again soon.